that build all of the guns, you that build that planes, you that build the big bombs, just want you to know that I see through your mask. You that never done nothing but build to destroy.
Hello and welcome to another episode of ERG Power Talk. I'm your host, Joe Santana. The clip you just saw is from the December 2014 movie Selma, and the film covers the 1965 Selma to Montgomery marches where civil rights leaders fought to be heard in their pivotal fight for voting rights. Now, progress has undoubtedly been made thanks to the sacrifices and struggles of these brave leaders, but getting your voice heard still remains very challenging. While employee policies have evolved over the past 60 years or so to attract and engage a more diverse workforce, many foundational practices have not changed. Key areas such as those that define what employee expenses are reimbursable, who's considered a member of the family for benefit purposes, how job performance is measured, what holidays are paid, and compensation structures that support inequity, they still need some reform. Organizations actually need all the voices in your communities to help them to focus on these things and understand that these areas are important. But how do we collect and present these diverse perspectives? And what can ERG communities do to drive that type of change? So to help us answer these questions and more, we've got the perfect guest. But before we introduce our guest, let's take a moment to review our mission and acknowledge our supporters. This is ERG Power Talk, and I'm your host, Joe Santana. The purpose of ERG Power Talk is to provide a virtual forum for the exchange of great ideas and inspiration for ERG leaders as well as others interested in supporting ERGs. With ERG Power Talk, there is no more waiting until the next conference and praying that you get the budget to travel to the conference to find great ideas and stimulation toward action. Just subscribe and listen at your convenience. Before we begin, a quick note of thanks to our supporters: Atrium Health, Freighter Health and Wisconsin Medical College, Hiscox, Lee Health, National Audubon Society, Tapestry, Federal Reserve Board, Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia, the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, FINRA, Oshkosh Corporation, UL Solutions, and Sony Pictures Entertainment. Now, let's go straight to the program. He is the founder of Kgotla, where he leads with a focus on dialogue-driven leadership, shaping organizational identities and fostering collaborative decision-making, with over 2 decades of corporate experience driving powerful collaborations. He has overseen large-scale projects such as developing 7,000 offices in Porto and 15,000 in Brussels. His innovative approach also includes revitalizing a UNESCO heritage site into a nautical center.
Good day, everybody. My name is Martijn de Liefde. I'm the founder of the Kgotla company 21 years ago in the Netherlands, but also in South Africa and Botswana, organizing large-scale interventions and dialogues within corporates. 53 years old, from the Netherlands, the most beautiful country in the world.
Martin, I want to thank you for joining us on ERG Power Talk. As I mentioned before we started recording, you and I actually met in Vienna, Austria over 10 years ago. And I had the opportunity to participate in one of your Kgotla sessions. And I pronounce it Kgotla because I try to combine the K and the G. And I just saw you say Kgotla. Is there a proper way to say it, or am I okay with Kgotla?
Yeah, it's correct. You should say Kgotla. The K and the G are a little bit combined in Botswana. That's true.
There's a little bit of it's almost like a raspy sound, like Kgotla. That's what I heard you say when we were in Vienna. But anyway, for our listeners who may not be familiar with that term and what it means, tell us what a Kgotla is and how did you learn about this approach to bring different voices together?
Yeah, I put in my background several pictures, so I will swap some pictures to illustrate it. So if you see here, there is a Kgotla behind me. This is the first Kgotla in Botswana, and basically a Kgotla is originating in Botswana, next to South Africa, where chiefs and paramount chiefs listen to the village people, and there are 350 chiefs in the country, and 35 paramount chiefs, and they come together in the capital city of Gaborone to listen to the voices of the people. And I was so fascinated when I heard about this from the Gama family, which are the founders of the country, basically, after the English gave it back to the Tswana people, but also from Maki Mandela, who my parents met when they were in South Africa. And my father wrote a book about the Kgotla, and this is where it all started. Now it's 2001, so 23 years ago. I said, Dad, put the website on and let's see if we can tell this story. And now 23 years later and more than 100 companies later, we facilitated dialogues in corporates on the basis of how they originally did it in Botswana. So that's how it all started.
And tell us a little more about that process itself, what they did in Botswana, because I know we did sort of a mini version of it when we were in Vienna, where we broke down into different groups, but it was really a fascinating way of collecting information from one group and then taking representatives from each of those groups and bringing them to another group and just working your way up and just hearing those voices. And also the way you captured the information, I thought was fascinating, because you captured more than our ideas and our words. You actually captured our perceptions and the feelings that we had around those words. So talk a little bit about that, Martin.
Yeah. So basically, I transformed this process into the corporate setting where the CEO basically listens to the people and sits on a podium where we invite all employees to the meeting. We can facilitate 400 people per day. So let's say in 10 days, we can come to close to invite more than 5,000 people in a large corporation. So it's a very fast-paced process of collecting information. And the interesting thing is that people can come to the meeting. The managers, the directors, and the board of directors are allowed to listen, and the CEO asks the questions. And the people cannot ask questions, but only answer the questions of the chief. So what we do is we'll start the meeting like you see here in the background picture, and the chief tells his dream about the company. As we all know, Martin Luther King had a dream, and we're still working on it. So I think a dream should be a realistic dream where people get the opportunity to say, if this is your dream, then you should do this, that, and that, and that. And then the dream can be realized within the corporation. So how we do that is we use artwork. So this is a picture of me 23 years ago, where I used this artwork, the universal life cycle, to group people in the room. So the 400 people are grouped in 18 groups based on the selection of artwork. And we found out that when you put the people together with a similar painting choice, they think alike. But if you have 9 pictures, then we get very diverse groups of different thinkers together. And in a group of 400, if you have around 18 subgroups, there is a lot of ideas that are coming, and they sometimes oppose, they are against each other. And this is then the task of the leadership to ask the right questions to find the common ground. And then each group has to summarize it into a painting. Like this is one of the largest facilitations I did with a copper mine from Rio Tinto in South Africa. It's an English-Australian company and very large. And this was with 5,000 mine workers. And so we collected all their ideas in short paintings, which are metaphors to simplify the issues. Because if you invite all people in the corporation, then you will have very diverse opinions and also very diverse of, how do I say it, knowledge levels and education levels. I mean, in the mine, we had to deal with, how you call that, people who can't read and write. So then metaphors and paintings are the language to share the similar ideas. So that's a bit how it works in a nutshell. It's a complex process which I simplified into 5 steps in the day, and we changed from large-scale group sessions of 400 to subgroups of 20, back to large-scale sessions, breaks, and then decision-making at the end.
I just love the power and the simplicity of using pictures. And one of the things that you said in the beginning, which I want to underscore, is that you start with some kind of a vision, because you want to have people thinking in different directions about different things, but you want to start with something that pulls them all to a center somewhere. Yeah. And that center is, what is the vision? What is the mission? What is it that we're trying to accomplish? And then that is, as I recall, that's turned into some kind of a picture. And then different people resonate with different pictures that represent that vision. Those people are then grouped together, and then those people all discuss the different things about their input into that, their feelings and inputs. And that is turned into a visual also, or a picture of some kind. And then all of those are brought together. And then that becomes, you have your central picture of where you started with your vision. And then you have these expanding pictures. And I think that unlike the usual survey, which asks questions that are in writing and gets responses that are in writing, and probably only gets a very surfacey dimension of a response, this gets a much deeper response. What are some of the common challenges that you see that organizations face when they're trying to modernize their decision-making process to be more inclusive? And how does the Kgotla overcome these things? How does it overcome those obstacles?
Maybe I should do it on the example of one of the companies I had, where I think one thing on the vision and the strategy, I think most corporates have a vision and a strategy, and it's all very clear, and a lot of marketing and branding companies have worked on it, and it's a fantastic story. But most workers don't understand the vision. So I think when we are invited as the Kgotla company to CEO, then we translate that sort of corporate story that most large corporations have into a dream that everybody can embrace, that becomes very personal per department and the vision in the company, so that people can relate to it. And also, they feel like, wow, I'm heard, and I can actually maybe make the vision better and more personal for our department. So I think that is a crucial step we do before we start these large-scale interventions. We sit for 3 days with the CEO and maybe some or 2 directors to translate the vision into a metaphor and into a picture story that everybody can understand. And in the picture behind me is one of the CEOs that then starts the meeting with his dream. And people are confused sometimes by that, and that's an obstacle. Say, is there a new dream? Can we actually say something about it? That is for, especially in Asia, but also in some hierarchical companies, it's unusual. And that builds the trust from the people towards the leadership, that they say, wow, we can also do something. And Kgotla, it derived from the concept of Ubuntu. And Ubuntu means I am because you are, because we are. So this community feeling is made very important. And at the same time, there is a decision-making process. So it's not like a lengthy concept where everybody can talk. Like in the Netherlands, we have this we call it Poolse Landdag, which is a very lengthy story and everybody can debate and debate and debate. That's not possible in a Kgotla. So in a Kgotla, you listen, everybody can say their voice, and then there is a hierarchical decision-making process based on much more information than what some board of directors do when they sit with 8 people together with some focus groups. I think that's where the difference is. And the obstacles are that sometimes within HR, but also when they have external leadership companies, they like to organize lots of these facilitation processes, but they don't have heard all the people. And that's, I think, the strength of our process, where you have basically the whole system in the room. And that's the powerful difference. And at the same time, an obstacle, because most of my clients say, but like KLM is one of my clients, and they say, we can't stop flying. So how do we get all these people in the room while they are in the airplanes? Okay, we will find some logistical solution for that. So that are some of the obstacles. And the other most important obstacle is that middle management feels sometimes, but that's our task. Why are you hearing as a CEO directly our people? But what we all know is sometimes that the middle management is telling different stories to upper management and director levels. So they not always get the right information. And that is, I think, the strength of the Kgotla, and at the same time the obstacle, because many of the middle management start to block it because they say, no, we don't want that. We don't want all this information on the street. And I think are the two what I normally get as the biggest obstacles. Yeah,
I could see that. It's really interesting you were saying about how it's important to have all those different voices as opposed to just a few voices, because quite frankly, in most organizations today, there are major disconnects between what leadership believes is going on and what employees believe is going on. In the DEI space especially, it's not uncommon to see statistics where you see things like a study was done where executives from a company were asked, how are you all doing in terms of your efforts? And they said, we're doing great. They gave themselves a 97. And then you go and you ask the employees and they give them some dismal rating, that's 60 points lower. Because one is talking about, this is how I'm experiencing the world, and the other one is talking about, this is all the things I'm doing for you.
Because after most of these surveys, then they call us. That's the funny part. So I like the surveys because they're so confusing. It's one of my best sales, these surveys.
Yeah,
but I
it's
think
a marketing.
It has worsened with the post-COVID, because during COVID, everybody was at home. So the disconnect became bigger. And now they say, we stay at home. And so I think you see all these researches as well. There's less energy, there's more depression, the people don't know each other. The confusion is larger because people are not together anymore. And of course, now we are in a digital world and we have this podcast. But I think physically meetings, is always better, because the chit-chat in the corridors and during the lunches are as important and being together as these large-scale interventions. So a lot happens on these days. And after now more than 80,000, 90,000 people in this Kgotla system, it's fascinating to do. But it's a challenge to get people together now, especially when they work at home post-COVID. It's needed, I think, more than ever.
I can see that. So what is the most effective way that you found, Martijn, for conveying the outcomes of the Kgotla to the leaders, right? So once you start collecting all this information, you have all this information, what do you find is the most effective way to capture the richness of the entire communication that you picked up from doing this sort of massive study of what everybody's voices are around this vision?
Yeah. Now, I think two things. So basically, first of all, I think the physical meeting, a lot of people say, wow, that we will never forget it. And he announces publicly these decisions. So people who are in the room are like, wow, this is really powerful. Secondly, we will digitalize everything. and there will be some videos made. So it's in written communication, and some of the larger companies, they have their internal web pages, or we make a special dialogue web page where people can read the decisions. And what we do after the session is we communicate everything again in a small sort of mini Kgotla meeting, but then with middle management. So all managers are then invited after we've heard all the people, and we will read the decisions again, and we discuss why the decision is not executed or why it is effectively executed. And that's quite an interesting process where middle management is then put to the test if they execute what the leadership has decided based on the information of the people. So these middle management sessions, they are in groups like this, which you see in the background, because most companies have like 40 to 80 middle managers in the larger companies, where we communicate and discuss all the paintings, all the details, and everything is registered now with the digital tools we have nowadays. It's very easy because all the group information in those 20 groups per day, 10 days, so 200 groups, it's all collected, and we will summarize it and see how many times one topic came back per group. And of course, the hot topics will be discussed with the middle management again to see, and then it's translated to each individual department. So we use physical meetings, digital meetings, written communications. In the mine, we had sometimes planted billboards in the departments with pictures because of the illiterate people. But yeah, that was quite unique. Of course, in the Netherlands, when we do it there with where everybody is educated on that level, it's not needed. But that are the three most important. So physical, digital, and some picture books and videos are used to communicate again about it. And I think one of the most important is that we use in-house facilitators. So people from the company facilitate the small dialogues. We train them, and they become sort of the voice within the departments to hear also back if someone didn't understood it. They can ask again, and then senior management will reply to that.
So it sounds like it's all closed loop all the way through. People sometimes give their opinions and they say certain things, and then they never hear back. Well, what happened? Was the idea accepted? Was it rejected? What happened? This is all closed loop. And you mentioned the other thing about people leading those discussions within the organization. So who typically are the people that you pick to train to lead that type of discussion?
Yeah, that's another obstacle as well, actually, in the process, because we want sort of the lowest ranks to facilitate, because they are the closest to the workers. But at the same time, they sometimes are not good enough to facilitate these groups, so we train them. But most important is that they are open, that are not opinionated, but very neutral and well respected. So sometimes we ask departments to put forward the person they like the most, and it can be sometimes a more activist person. It doesn't matter, as long as he stays neutral or she stays neutral in the dialogue, and that we train in also a 3-day process. And normally we only need 18 people per day to facilitate and 18 to assist the facilitator. So there are always two sort of amateuristic facilitators from the organization who have a normal job but like to facilitate to guide the process. And normally we select a bit more from the 36 we need. We select, like, say, 50 to 60 people, and then some after the 3 days says, oh no, I can't do it, or I don't want to do it, and they refuse, and then we still have the 18 to 36 people to facilitate. And they should be neutral, and they are allowed to share their opinion in the training, but not during the Kgotla days. They must just project then the voice of the group they lead.
Very interesting. So it's not the senior most person in the group that you're looking at. You're looking at somebody who's closer to the experiences and the opinions and perspectives of the people that they're talking to. That's excellent. Okay, so here's what I got out of the first half of my discussion with Martin. 1, effective decision-making in organizations and groups can benefit greatly from getting insights from all the communities that make up the company. Bringing together diverse voices is possible using a process like the traditional Kgotla gatherings in Botswana. 2, the version of the Kgotla used in an organization is essentially a gathering of different groups where the facilitator then brings together what they've learned from their session to another session where another facilitator facilitates a discussion between the facilitators. And you can do that many levels up depending on how big the groups are or the organization is. For an ERG group, you probably can do it in 1 or 2 steps. 3, the key to anchoring these various perspectives is to start by sharing the leader's vision for the organization. And this is not the division leaders or a department leader's vision, like let's say HR's vision or marketing's vision, but the vision, which is the CEO's vision for the entire enterprise. If you can get that delivered in person, that's great. If not, see if you can get a recording that you can then share at the beginning of these facilitated discussions. 4, the goal of the Kgotla is to include all community voices in fleshing out the leader's vision and expanding it into a unified vision that resonates with all levels and all communities in the organization, aligning these different diverse perspectives toward a central purpose and establishing a shared sense of direction. And finally, 5, choose your discussion facilitators from people who are the closest to the employees or members of the groups instead of using the group or community leaders. You can provide these facilitators training, teaching them to be neutral and approachable and ensuring that they're prepared to make sure that all voices are effectively represented and heard throughout the process. In the next segment of our discussion with Martin, we're going to go deeper into how to create and run these groups for maximum results. All this and more when we come back, but first this. I'll see you on the other side. Are you an ERG group or committee chair struggling to balance your ERG activities with your day job responsibilities? Well, you're not alone. There are hundreds of thousands of passionate ERG leads all around the world that find themselves in the same boat. The only solution found by many is to give up lunch hours and personal time with family and friends. But there is a better way, and that better way is to master the powerful skills that enable you to 1, set realistic and achievable compelling goals and priorities. 2, distribute the workload by effectively delegating tasks and responsibilities to others. 3, communicate in a way that increases your impact with less time and effort on your part. 4, secure the full and active support of executive sponsors and other senior business leaders. And 5, fit your ERG leadership work into a reasonable set of time boundaries. And that and more is exactly what tens of thousands of your colleagues have learned to do effortlessly by participating in Supercharge Workshops. Supercharge Workshops was developed by us along the same easy and powerful how-to framework found in our popular Supercharge Your ERGs book. The modular, customizable programs are loaded with fun exercises and tools that will immediately give you back hours of time each day while increasing your ability to achieve high impact and measurable results in both your ERG work and your job. For more details on how you can schedule a Supercharge Workshop session in your organization, go to superchargeworkshops.com. That's https:// Supercharge Workshops, one word with no spaces.com. So don't suffer silently. Take that first step towards stopping your struggle today. Check out Supercharge Workshops. I'm going to shift tact with you a little bit now and start moving more into the communities that are the people who, for the most part, listen to this program. What are some strategies that these employee resource group leaders, women's groups leaders, the Asian group leaders, veterans, what are some strategies that you think that they can use to prepare to facilitate a meaningful dialogue within their communities to gather their diverse perspectives effectively? Because, I mean, the way a woman might experience working at a particular company, the dynamics that they experience in terms of opportunities and how supportive the company is and their success could be quite different than the experience that a man has who, let's say, is a veteran, or that a person has who is Black. Everybody's going to experience the company from a different perspective. And I think those are really valuable for the organization to have, starting with a vision of what the organization wants to do, obviously, and then drilling down to these groups. But how do you recommend they prepare to facilitate something like that? It doesn't sound like the group leader is the person who's going to facilitate it. Probably somebody in the group who's a group member. If I follow what you were saying before about how you pick people for these. I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, I run a community inside a large organization. My community is made of Hispanic professionals from different backgrounds in Latin America or so forth. And I want to collect their voices and make them available to my organization so that my organization knows, relative to the mission of the organization, which I would imagine I would get by first getting that information from leadership, relative to that mission, what are some of the thoughts of the people in this particular community, their needs to be more successful and so forth? And before I wrap up 10 questions into one question, right? Would I pick somebody else to do this if I'm the person who is basically acting as the leader of this group or the chair of this group? Would I pick someone else to be the leader who's maybe one of the members? Because maybe even being the leader of the group, I might have a slightly different perspective than somebody who's one of the members. That all of the questions of the above, whichever one you pick in whatever order you pick them.
Now, okay, it's a very interesting question. And two examples come to mind. And they're a bit extreme, but the interesting thing is every organization, of course, is very diverse. I mean, in the Netherlands, we have in Amsterdam over 180 nationalities. So it's almost the whole world is represented in one city. And you see that also in the organization. So most organizations in the Netherlands, for example, have more than 50 nationalities. And there are cultural differences. And it is all fine. So they probably will group into so the diversity is how do you say it, shown more harshly in the Kgotla, which is fine because we are all in the same room and you'll see the different opinions that sometimes are clashing. But if everybody is listening and one person says this opinion, then the interesting thing is that people have time to digest it and think, that's the way they look. So in the selection process to prepare, and also the trainers and the facilitators, we try to select from every tribe, if we stick to the African word, because in companies there are also tribes. And they voice their sort of sometimes extreme voices. And I give you one example, which never happened in a corporation, but I did a Kgotla in a youth prison in the Netherlands. And the youth prison in the Netherlands, there are tribes. I mean, there are Moroccan tribes, there are Turkish tribes, there are Polish tribes, there are Nigerian tribes that did bad things in our country. They end up in the jail. And we did a Kgotla with the prisoners. And one of the things that happened was that the true leader in the prison was not to be found. He appointed a sub-leader. And when we said, but we are here to discuss how you go to the normal world and not be a criminal anymore, we cannot teach you how to stay a criminal, as we knew that was happening in the prison, of course. So then what happened was that one of the Moroccan guys said, but I don't like the Turkish guys. And so there were two tribes and they were sort of opposing views. And they said, we are so happy that we finally can speak this extreme opinions. And I said, guys, one thing, if you tell your opinion, it should be with respect, with dignity, and with humanity. And then the dialogue stays, even in such an extreme environment, still respectful. And I think in a corporation, it's not that extreme, but also cultural differences in the way people work. I mean, in FedEx recently, or in other companies, there are also a lot of Indians that work in the IT department, and they have different ways of being together than a Dutch person that eats a sandwich of cheese. They like a curry. I don't know. And there's nothing wrong with both of it. But these kind of topics sometimes come up. And to select the different leaders or sub-leaders in organizations is good for the diversity of the dialogue. And also to get to the real point, because in a lot of these discussions, people talk around the hot potato, and therefore no solution will be found, because they simply don't touch the painful topics. And the interesting thing with dialogue is that you stay away from a discussion where someone is wrong or right, because only what we do is we find the way forward. So there is no wrong or right, but it is up to the leadership to then decide what is good for the airline, the bank, wherever you come from. And people understand sometimes when these harsh opinions are shared that maybe sound not so respectful or discriminative, are then shared, understood, listened to, people digest it, and then they think, oh yeah, maybe my opinion was not that good, and we should do it differently. And I always share as a last one, as an example, true story in Botswana, where the chiefs they found diamonds. And the chief in the country asked everybody, what shall we do with the diamonds? And people didn't know what a diamond was. So they said, oh, great, I will make a road of it. Oh, I love it on my roof. It's shiny. I'll make a fence of it. So then, and this is a true story, then the chief said, if the children of our nation don't understand the value of diamonds, we'll keep it in the ground, in the soil, until this nation understands the value of diamond. And this happened truly. They sent some children to Antwerp and London to find out what can you do with a diamond. And now they're one of the richest diamond producers in the world. And Botswana is doing very well also compared to other African nations, because the English didn't take the diamonds compared to South Africa. So even if the chief says we're not going to use the diamonds for roads, roofs, and fences, everybody is very unhappy because none of the ideas were used. But at the end, they understood, maybe it's clever that we keep it in the soil until the English are gone. So
interesting story.
It's a fascinating story and a very good way to share as an example how a dialogue works.
One of the things that I picked up from you, Martin, as you were talking, because originally when I asked my question, I was thinking in terms of, let's say, the community made up of people that are from Hispanic backgrounds gets together and they have a Kgotla. They have their own Kgotla there. And then the community that has the women, they have one. But something that you said triggered another thought. And I think this is what you're saying, that there's probably a lot of value to taking members. If you have, let's say, 8 communities, taking members from each of those communities, creating a subgroup from them, and then saying, okay, this is the mission. What are your perspectives based on your experiences and so forth? Because there, instead of having more of the overall agreement and doubling down on the same idea, you're going to have more of a divergence of ideas. And if you combine a couple of groups that are hybrid groups like that, where you have divergence of ideas, with a couple of groups that are made up of a more intact community of people that maybe are more similar, and you begin to bring those together, you're going to get a fuller picture and also the dynamics between how these different ideas might work together or need to be reconciled before they're presented as something that is a suggestion that's going to help the company.
Yeah, we always
You
mix it.
mix it on purpose.
Yeah, because in Holland, like I said, there's sometimes departments where, and then they fight about the lunch behavior. And the Dutch like the cheese sandwich, and the Indians like curry, but the curry smells. So then they fight about, yeah, but I want to just eat my curry, and they say, yeah, but I want to eat my cheese sandwich, and then it becomes a very problem because they say, yeah, but this is a culture and a discrimination and whatever. But it's just a simple issue, and then when they are together. So then it's not a problem anymore. So
Yeah.
And so the diversity to bring, because most of the time we know already what group A or group B wants, but they must understand and accept it, and forgiveness and reconciliation around the topic only starts with awareness. So you need first the awareness of why, the deeper, and then you can forgive and reconcile about a certain topic. Otherwise, it will be lengthy talks and it will never be solved, what you see in many companies.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think that's a great approach, and I'm glad we clarified that. So let me ask you this. What are some things that ERG leaders can do to encourage their members who may be hesitant to speak up? Some of us overshare. I think I've been accused of that. And some of us undershare. Some people have a lot of great ideas, but they're not the kind of people who will automatically put their hand up and offer those ideas. I'm sure you encounter them in your groups. Do you set up these sessions in such a way to ensure that all the voices are heard, even the ones that tend to be a little more laid back or a little more hidden?
Yes, and it starts, the most important thing is it starts with the chief in the beginning of the meeting that takes a very vulnerable position by asking to comment and give ideas on what to do, what not to do, what to keep, what to get rid of in the dream of the chief. So that puts him in a very vulnerable position, but it at the same time gives trust to the people, and it will provide a safe environment because the CEO says, I really want to hear your voice. And that doesn't happen very often, that the CEO sort of puts his own vision to questioning, and not to change it, but to ask them, do you get it? Do you want to change things? How can we improve it? So that taking up that vulnerable position gives the trust. It will give the safe environment, and to encourage the community members to speak up. And one example I had in a company where there was a lot of fear with the middle management and the workers to the middle management. And they said, we can't speak up. They said in the first day in the Kgotla. I said, why? Yeah, because if I speak up, I get fired. And I said, no, you can speak. It's fine. We will register it. You will not be fired as long as you do it with dignity, respect, and humanity. And then I was, the whole Kgotla lasted for 3 weeks. And I was in the village where we did it, and I put some gasoline in my car. And one of the guys came to me at the gas station and very angry. He said, yeah, you're a stupid Kgotla. I am fired because you told me to speak up, and now my manager has fired me. So I was really shocked. And I said, okay, you can step in my car. We'll drive now to the CEO and you share what happened. No, I can't do that. I said, you're fired anyway, so you don't lose anything. So he did so. And then at the end, we had a discussion with the middle management, and one of the middle managers were fired, and he was put back in the job. So I think it is easier said than done, but when the CEO or the leader takes this vulnerable position to really ask questions, open questions, where people can say whatever they want, that is the critical moment to build trust to the community members. And then they will speak up. And another one is that everybody is invited. And most of the time we take a lot of effort to take and invite also the negative people. the ones who actually already lost faith in the process and so on. Please, you must come. And that will generate the moment where everybody believes in a good ending of the dialogue.
Yeah, I love that story, by the way, Martin. I think that this is all fantastic. I can imagine how, like, let's say, for example, if I were a DEI leader inside the company right now, I could probably get my CEO to give a little bit of direction. You could even video something like this. You could video, what is your vision? What are the things that and what are questions that you're asking people, like, what can we do to help us meet this vision? Or are there other aspects of this? So all those kind of open questions then can be supplied to groups of people. Those groups of people can be a collection of people that are from different cross sections of different communities in the organization in order to get that dynamic. And then from that, you can distill up suggestions or ideas. Maybe there's a practice or a policy that's impeding most of the people in the organization from being as supportive as they'd like to be of that mission or of that goal. So this can be really powerful. And I hope that more than just answering questions, that the conversation that we're having sparks a lot of thinking, because I think it does raise a lot of thinking. As I said before, I was part of your program 10 years ago when we were in Vienna, and you mentioned about how people remember it. Well, I remember it, right? And it was very impactful. And I had been part of doing surveys and research and doing all types of focus groups. And I just found this to be much more powerful. So 2 more questions for you, Martin. One, how can ERG leaders and others who are listening to this program learn more about Kgotlas?
Call me and we organize one. But I think most of the time is really dig deeper into the concept of dialogue, because what I see in corporations is it's very much focused on a discussion, everything they do, and there are only winners and losers. So I think try to investigate in the concept of dialogue, because I think, and females are just better listeners than men. That I don't know. I'm not a professor, but that's what I've noticed in the 20 years I'm doing this. So I think the listening sometimes is seen as weak, and that's simply not true. It's very powerful as long as once you have listened, take a decision, and there is where leadership comes in. To then have the guts to say, okay, I heard all the voices. I understand people don't understand the power of the diamond, so we'll keep it in the soil against every voice. And as an example. So I think that to do this, if you want to test it, take a very hot topic, maybe with one division or one department, and you will see, like we did in Vienna, it can be done in very small groups. But as long as you invite the entire community, you can experience it. And where can you find out? My father wrote a book about it. I'm busy at the moment also writing a book about it, again, after the 20 years. The website, maybe you can share the website, thegotla.com. There is, I think in America also now more and more about dialogue to be found. And I'm willing to come to New York. No problem.
That is great. And Martin, how can our listeners reach you personally? If they have questions and they want to go directly to you, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, I have, of course, my email address you can share. That's no problem. Then the people who are listening now can send me a personal email. If you want to read the book, Kgotla, you can also send an email. I can send it to the US or wherever you are. That are the two things. At the moment, we have a lot of videos still on the website. I'm busy updating it because the website is now, I don't know, 15 years old or 10 years old, I think. So I need to work on that. I think that are the two things. And we are busy for next year also organizing trips. So where I've organized more than 10 years CEO trips to Botswana and South Africa to and get into the process. But you can also do that in your own country, and we can organize this kind of leadership trails to not to sit in nature and listen to the birds, but really experience the difference between dialogue, decision making, or a discussion, and then take decisions. And I think this process is more informative, and therefore you take better decisions because you have heard more voices. Even the voices that are against your vision will help you to make stronger decisions. So via the website, and they can email me to my martin@kgotla.com, no problem. I will answer all the questions.
Fantastic. Martin, thank you again for being here on ERG Power Talk. Personally appreciate it. Let's not wait 10 years before we talk again.
No, exactly. I'm planning to be in New York maybe in January again. So we can meet up then.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Martin. Okay, so here's what I got out of the second half of our discussion with Martin. 1, creating hybrid groups with members from various communities will generate a broader range of perspectives and facilitate deeper and greater understanding. So what we mean here is, instead of, let's say, doing a Kgotla with the women's ERG and another one with the black ERG and another one with another group in a company where, let's say, you have 6 ERGs, run 6 sessions, but in each of those sessions, make sure that you have representatives from each of the ERGs. So by combining them together, you get these different life experiences in each of these sessions and these different cultural viewpoints that each of these communities have. And this will give you a richer and deeper level of understanding about the concerns and the rationales behind the different beliefs that people are bringing to the table. 2, set ground rules for these meetings to ensure you maintain respect, dignity, and humanity. This is crucial when facilitating dialogue on potentially sensitive topics. The facilitator should encourage open, authentic expression, but set clear expectations for respectful communication, allowing people to share their experiences honestly without divisive or disrespectful exchanges. 3, before solving a problem, there must be awareness of underlying cultural differences and needs in the different people that are participating in the discussion. Once participants understand each other's perspectives, they can move towards reconciliation and a more unified approach, avoiding lengthy, unresolved discussions that fail to address the core issues. So use icebreakers or other exercises to get people to know each other more deeply before jumping into the Kgotla session. 4, invite the skeptics. Invite people who may feel extra marginalized within the different community groups. You want to ensure that everyone's perspective is heard. And finally, 5, part of the facilitator's job is to always ensure the discussion does not become a debate and that it stays on track as an open dialogue, inviting a deeper and deeper understanding of a broader array of perspectives. Engaging your ERGs in structured, inclusive dialogue is really more critical today than it's ever been before. Organizations today face significant perception gaps between how the leadership and the employees view the company. There was one recent study by WorkHuman where HR leaders and employees were asked how the company was moving forward relative to making formerly marginalized community members feel more included. The result was that the HR leaders gave themselves a whopping 97% success score. In contrast, employees, they gave them a paltry 37%. Women, people of color, and LGBTQ community members, shaped by their diverse backgrounds and experiences, are often skeptical and see what the company is doing through a different lens. This divide can stifle innovation, collaboration, and morale. A structured approach like a Kgotla can bring these various voices together and enable them to contribute and connect to the organization's vision. So I urge you to talk to your DEI leaders and propose implementing this inclusive approach in your organization to bridge the perception gaps, foster unity, and empower every voice to contribute meaningfully to your organization's present and future aspirations. Thank you for tuning in to ERG Power Talk. If you enjoyed and got value out of this program, please like us and leave a favorable review at your podcast provider's site. Also, invite others to listen to the show. By the way, contact me if you're looking for an ERG Symposium keynote or a leader for your strategy workshop, new chair onboarding, and or ERG bootcamp. I can run these for you either in person or in a virtual setting. Also, for more great ideas and tips for your ERGs, get my books, Supercharge Your ERGs, 18 Tips to Power Up Your ERG/BRG Strategy, and the new DEI and ERG Frontier, how you and your efforts can rise and thrive in the new world of constant disruption. Both available on Amazon.com. I'm Joe Santana. Thanks again for tuning in.